Round 10 of the FIDE Grand Swiss is in the books, and we do not have a champion neither in the open section nor in the women's, nor do we know who are the two players who are going to make it to the candidates. It's going to be an incredible final round, but first, let's have a look at what happened in the penultimate round of this amazing tournament. We had a very interesting clash on the top board between Anish Giri and Alireza Firouzja. In this position, Alireza with the white pieces played the move c4 attacking the knight and also asking a question to Anish that what are you going to do about your bishop on b7? Well, knight jumped into c3, Anish had it all worked out, and after queen b7, it was a perpetual attack on the queen and the players agreed to a draw. Quite a good result for Anish considering that he had the black pieces. For Firouzja, well, he is still in the race for the top spot. The other game, which was extremely critical for both the players who were on 6.5 points, was Matthias Bluebaum versus Vincent Keymer. And well, this was a heartbreak for Vincent. In this position, Vincent is totally winning. If he plays a move like knight e4, he should convert this position with ease. The h5 pawn is weak and he's a pawn up. But Vincent had a moment of carelessness. He played rook at 7, and can you spot what Matthias can do here? Knight takes g3. What a beautiful move. You can't take with the pawn as it's pinned. You have to take with the king, and then in comes a check and you take the knight on c3. In the game, it continued with check, king f7, knight b1, and then, well, Vincent won a pawn, but it was still a draw, and that means both Matthias and Vincent finish on 7 points going into the final round. Another player who actually managed to reach 7 points is none other than Hans Niemann. Hans actually scored the big win of the day. He managed to beat the top seed Pragnananda. In this position, Hans has just attacked Prag's queen, and Prag had to play rook c1 check, queen takes, queen b4, and although white would be slightly better, black has chances to hold. But Prag went queen a5, and this was the mistake that Hans needed. After bishop takes b7, rook c7, takes, queen e1. It was beautiful to see how Hans actually coordinated his pieces. You can see here the queen is on e4 and the rook is on b4. But a few moves later, after this, check, a3, and making square for the king, king h2, queen e3. Excellent move. The rook switches over, and then queen comes in, and you will see that the rook has swung over from b4 to f4, and there's no way to defend this. Pragnananda resigned, and Hans Niemann moved on to a score of 7 points. So that means we have 5 leaders on 7 points out of 10, which is quite incredible going into the last round. We have Matthias Bluebaum, Firouzja, Anish Giri, Hans Niemann, and Vincent Keymer. All of them on 7 points. And guess what? On 6.5 points, we also have a huge number of players, 10 of them, who are there, and they are all going to fight for the top honors for the last round. There was one game that I wanted to show of Nihal Sarin, who actually played really well against Nadirbek Abdusattorov. And in this position, if Nihal had taken on f6, bishop takes f6 is forced, bishop comes back to e3, and this is already a close to winning advantage, because after queen comes up, knight c5, and if you take the pawn, I go rook d2, and then the rook comes in, and you're going to lose a piece on d7. Nihal could have actually won the game, but it ended in a draw, which is actually quite sad news for Nihal, because he can no longer finish in top 2 in the tournament. Meanwhile, the wonder kid from US, Abhimanyu Mishra, continues his unbeaten streak in the tournament, and I think more than 65 games he now has of being unbeaten. He drew with MVL in a very theoretical game. Here, both players had a lot of time, and this is how the game ended in a draw. Abhimanyu has the best tiebreak in the tournament, and he's on 6.5 points. If he manages to win tomorrow against Vidit Gujarati, he has great chances to make it to the candidates. 16-year-old making it to the candidates, that would be insane and incredible. In the women's section, we had Vaishali, who managed to win her game today. She was trailing the sole leader Katrina Lagno by half a point, but look at the finish here. In this position, Vaishali has just pushed her pawn forward. Maria Muzichuk had to play rook f4 or move the bishop away, but instead she went rook g5, a huge mistake, and here Vaishali took her chance. Rook to h4, pinning the bishop here. The rook came to e5, but now a beautiful move. Rook e3, threatening nothing less than rook d3 checkmate, because the bishop is pinned, and so black had to move the rook away. d7 was such a powerful move, and if you take here, then rook d3 and you lose the rook, so you play rook e7, check, king goes back, boom, takes the bishop, and this is where Maria Muzichuk resigned, because after takes rook e3, she loses an entire piece. With this, Vaishali keeps her chances of not only finishing in top 2, but also of defending the title, because now she is in the joint lead along with Katrina Lagno, who drew her game against Tan Zhongyi. I think Katrina Lagno had good chances during the game, but Tan Zhongyi held on there, and in the end, the game ended with a perpetual check. It was quite a fight between these two players, but a draw was the final result. We also had Yuxin Song versus Bibisara, which also ended in a very calm draw in this position. This means that in the women's section, now we have two leaders on 7.5 points, Katrina Lagno and Vaishali. And then we have three players on 7 points, Tan Zhongyi, Yuxin Song, and Bibisara Asaubayeva, and two players on 6.5 points, Fatalieva and Irina Krush. Who's going to come out on top tomorrow? Well, it will be super exciting to follow this. I hope you enjoyed this recap. Tomorrow, the rounds start 1 hour in advance. I hope that you all will be watching, because a lot is at stake in the final rounds of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.